Let me tell you something that most people in the preparedness space never figure out until it's too late. During the last major supply chain breakdown, and there have been several in recent years, something interesting happened in grocery stores across the country. Predictable items vanished almost instantly. Rice was gone. Pasta was gone. Canned tomatoes, beans, flour, entire sections wiped clean before noon. People were filming empty aisles and posting them online within hours of the news breaking. But walk down certain other aisles, and you'd find shelves completely full. Not because those products were low quality, not because they'd been restocked. They were simply sitting there, untouched, because the average person panic buying in that moment had no mental model that included them. That gap between what people know to grab and what actually stays available is exactly what this list is designed to fill. These are 11 foods that were fully stocked during recent disruptions when conventional prepper staples had already disappeared. Each one addresses a real nutritional or practical gap that standard stockpiles leave open. Together, they don't just add variety, they form a complete second layer on top of your existing supplies. This isn't about replacing your basics. It's about building the layer most people never get to. Let's go through all 11. Hashtag 11. Bouillon Cubes. The reason bouillon cubes belong on this list has nothing to do with their flavor and everything to do with how people perceive them during a crisis. Most shoppers think of bouillon as a cooking ingredient, not a survival food. During panic buying events, that perception means one thing: nobody reaches for it. While every form of rice, pasta, soup, and canned protein gets cleared within hours, bouillon sits untouched in the same store. People who work in food distribution have documented this pattern repeatedly. It simply doesn't move during shortage events, but availability is only part of the argument. The stronger case is what bouillon actually does in an extended emergency. When you're living off stored food for 2 weeks or more, your biggest practical problem isn't calories, it's something researchers call taste fatigue. Studies on prolonged emergency eating consistently show that food monotony causes measurable declines in appetite and meal completion by days 3 or 4. People start skipping portions. They eat less than they need. They make worse decisions because their energy is low and their morale is lower. A single bouillon cube dropped into a pot of plain rice fundamentally changes that dynamic. The concentrated sodium supports electrolyte balance. The savory depth transforms what was an unpleasant meal into something your family will actually finish. That's not a luxury, that's a functional outcome. Military field rations have included bouillon-style concentrates for decades, and not by accident. Sustained performance under stress requires adequate nutrition, and adequate nutrition requires food people will actually eat. Storage tip: remove the cubes from cardboard immediately. Cardboard is permeable and absorbs ambient moisture over time. Transfer into glass mason jars with a silica gel packet inside. Sealed this way, bouillon cubes hold their flavor and structural integrity for years beyond the printed date. Cost approximately $30 for 500 cubes. That's 500 meals made significantly more tolerable, with zero competition at the checkout line during a crisis. Hashtag 10. Nutritional yeast. If you've never stocked nutritional yeast, you're almost certainly missing one of the most significant micronutrient gaps in emergency food planning, and you're not aware of it. Nutritional yeast is deactivated yeast in flake or powder form. It has a savory, mildly cheesy flavor, requires no refrigeration, and stays stable in a sealed container for up to 2 years. Most people in mainstream prepping have never considered it. Almost none stock it. During any supply disruption, it's consistently available. But here's why it matters beyond availability. 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast delivers approximately 8 grams of complete protein, meaning all 9 essential amino acids, the ones your body cannot synthesize on its own. That's roughly comparable to 1 large egg, with no cooking required and no refrigeration involved. The more critical issue is vitamin B12. Nutritional yeast is one of the most concentrated non-animal sources of B12 available in a shelf-stable format. B12 directly governs neurological function, cognitive clarity, and energy metabolism. In a prolonged emergency where food variety collapses, B12 depletion becomes a genuine medical concern within weeks for many people, not months. Research on nutritional deficiencies during food restriction consistently identifies B vitamins as an early casualty of dietary monotony. A stockpile that's calorie sufficient but micronutrient deficient produces people who are physically present but cognitively compromised. And that's exactly when you need to be thinking clearly. Practical use is simple. Sprinkle it over rice, stir into soups, mix into reconstituted powdered milk. 5 pounds costs around $40 and provides a sustained nutritional supplement layer across several months of emergency eating. Health food stores, larger grocery chains, and online retailers carry it consistently. It simply isn't part of the mainstream prepper purchasing pattern, which means your access is never in competition during a shortage. #9. Full-fat canned coconut milk. There's a hidden problem inside most emergency food stockpiles, and the people who built those stockpiles generally have no idea it's there. The problem is fat. Most emergency food systems are calorie-dense, but almost all of those calories come from carbohydrates. White rice contains essentially zero fat. Dried beans have negligible amounts. Most commercially produced freeze-dried meals deliberately strip fat during processing because fat oxidizes and shortens shelf life. A rational manufacturing decision that creates a real nutritional gap for the end user. Fat is not optional in human physiology. Your body requires it to absorb fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. It's essential for hormone production, thermal regulation in cold environments, sustained energy output, and brain function. Roughly 60% of your brain's dry weight is fat. A stockpile without adequate fat isn't uncomfortable, it's physiologically incomplete. Full-fat canned coconut milk addresses this directly. 1 can contains approximately 50 grams of fat, primarily medium-chain triglycerides. MCTs are processed more rapidly by the body than long-chain fats, making them particularly useful during physical exertion and cold weather conditions. Shelf life extends to 5 years, outperforming most standard canned goods. There's also a practical rationing benefit. 1 cup of dry rice produces roughly 2 servings. Add half a can of coconut milk, and you stretch that toward 3 or 4 servings, meaningful when you're managing limited supplies. Cost is under $2 per can at Asian grocery stores. Neither Asian grocery stores nor the international aisles at standard retailers experience meaningful shortage pressure during panic buying events. These products simply aren't part of the mainstream emergency mental checklist. Target a minimum of 50 cans, rotating oldest stock to the front. #8. Ghee belongs in every serious preparedness setup, and the reason comes down to one specific process. Clarification. Ghee is butter that has been heated and strained to remove water and milk solids. What remains is pure butterfat. And that removal is everything. The milk solids are what cause regular butter to spoil. Eliminate them, and you've eliminated the primary biological mechanism behind rancidity. What you're left with can be stored at room temperature in a sealed glass jar, no refrigeration required, for 1 to 2 years by standard labeling, and often significantly longer under stable conditions. Compare that to regular butter, which lasts 2 to 4 weeks refrigerated, or commercial butter powder, which has a 2-year shelf life but requires refrigeration after opening. Properly sealed ghee on a shelf outperforms both. 1 tablespoon of ghee delivers approximately 112 calories almost entirely from fat, along with fat-soluble vitamins A, E, and K. Its smoke point sits around 485 F, meaningfully higher than butter or most cooking oils, making it safe and effective for high-heat cooking over a camp stove or open fire. Storage is straightforward, glass jar, room temperature, away from direct light and heat. No mylar bags, no oxygen absorbers, no specialized preparation required. Cost is roughly $12 to $15 per jar. Keep at least a dozen in rotation. Ghee is one of the rare foods on this list that becomes more valuable the longer it sits properly sealed. That's not marketing, that's just the chemistry of what clarification does. #7. Dried seaweed. Most prepper stockpiles are silently setting up an iodine deficiency, and the preparedness community almost never talks about it. Iodine is required by the thyroid gland to produce hormones that regulate metabolism, energy production, body temperature, and cognitive function. In most developed countries, people get their iodine from two primary sources: iodized table salt and dairy products. Both of those become unreliable quickly in any sustained disruption. And standard emergency food supplies contain almost nothing that addresses iodine at all. Dried seaweed is the most concentrated natural iodine source available in a shelf-stable form. A single sheet of nori provides more iodine than most adults consume from all other dietary sources in an entire day. It's worth noting that iodine needs vary by individual, and excessive intake can also affect thyroid function, so 1 to 2 servings per day is appropriate, not unlimited quantities. But iodine is only the opening argument. Wakame delivers magnesium, calcium, and folate. Dulce, a red variety with a naturally salty flavor profile, provides meaningful iron and potassium. Nori contains up to 35% protein by dry weight in some tested varieties. These aren't minor additions, they address micronutrient gaps that standard stockpile foods leave almost entirely open. Shelf life is exceptional. Dried seaweed in an airtight container, kept in a cool and dark location, maintains nutritional integrity for years. Archaeological recovery of dried seaweed from sealed ancient storage vessels has shown largely intact nutritional profiles, placing it among the most storage-stable foods on this list. Practical use requires zero special skills. Crumble nori into rice during the final minutes of cooking. Add dried wakame to hot water with a bouillon cube for an instant mineral-dense broth. Use dulse as a salt substitute that brings real mineral value alongside the flavor. Asian grocery stores carry all major varieties consistently and in depth. This product category sees essentially no panic buying pressure. A full year supply for a family of 4 costs approximately $40 to $50. #6. Chia Seeds have a reputation as a wellness trend. That framing misses what they actually do in a real emergency. Start with the hydration property, because this is where the practical value is most concrete. Chia seeds absorb up to 12 times their own weight in liquid. When consumed, they form a slow-moving gel in the digestive tract that significantly delays gastric emptying. The result is twofold. Your body extracts more nutrition from the food you've already eaten, and you remain satiated considerably longer on the same caloric intake. Research shows meal satisfaction extending 2 to 3 hours longer in chia-containing meals compared to identical meals without them. In a rationing scenario, that means fewer meals consumed per day, less draw on your food supply, and better sustained mental function throughout. The cellular hydration effect also matters in hot environments or during physical exertion. Communities in northern Mexico documented for exceptional endurance performance in desert conditions used chia as a dietary staple, and researchers identified their hydration efficiency as partially connected to that consumption pattern. The nutritional profile addresses multiple stockpile gaps simultaneously. 1 ounce delivers approximately 11 grams of fiber, 9 grams of fat from omega-3 fatty acids, and 4 grams of complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids, making chia one of very few shelf-stable, complete plant proteins available. On omega-3 specifically, fish oil supplements degrade within 12 to 18 months. Chia seeds vacuum-sealed in amber glass retain their omega-3 content for up to 5 years. No comparable shelf-stable alternative currently exists. No preparation required. Eat them raw, soak in water, or add directly to any cooked food. 10 pounds vacuum-sealed costs approximately $60. Shortage pressure at health food stores and bulk retailers is essentially non-existent. #5. Premium instant noodles from Asian grocery stores. This item is on the list for a research-backed reason, not a preference. Standard emergency food planning gets the big priorities right: calories, shelf life, basic nutrition. What it consistently misses is the psychological cost of dietary monotony, and that cost is measurable. Studies on extended emergency food consumption document real declines in cognitive performance, increased anxiety, and spontaneous reductions in caloric intake as people begin psychologically resisting the same meal day after day. This isn't boredom. It's a documented phenomenon with functional consequences. Monotonous food makes people think less clearly and eat less than they actually need. High palatability variety isn't a comfort indulgence. In a sustained emergency, it's a performance variable. Premium instant noodle blocks from Asian grocery stores solve this, and the key distinction is where you buy them. The 25-cent options at mass market retailers are not the same product. What you find at stores like H Mart, 99 Ranch Market, or comparable Asian grocery retailers is fundamentally different in quality. Brands like Indomie, Nissin's international product lines, and Samyang use real dehydrated vegetables, complex spice blends, mushroom-based umami components, and frequently egg-based noodles with genuine protein content, some varieties delivering 8 to 10 grams of protein per serving. The variety is the functional point. Tonkotsu, laksa, kimchi, tom yum, rotating through genuinely distinct flavor profiles over 2 weeks, sustains adequate meal palatability to counter the psychological decline that monotony produces. 3 to 4 minutes to prepare. Minimal water required, no additional ingredients needed. At 30 to 50 cents per block in bulk, 100 servings costs under $50. Supply chain note: panic buying concentrates at mainstream grocery chains. Asian grocery stores experience significantly less pressure during those events because these specific products simply aren't part of most people's emergency mental checklist. #4. Textured vegetable protein, TV. There's a protein gap inside most prepper stockpiles, and the numbers make it obvious once you actually run them. Rice and beans together provide a complete amino acid profile over time that's well established. But their protein density per pound of storage weight is low. Freeze-dried meat solves the density problem at $20 or more per equivalent serving. Canned meat offers moderate protein but adds significant weight and carries a shelf life of only 3 to 5 years under typical conditions. Textured vegetable protein, TVP, solves the problem more efficiently than any comparable option currently available. TVP is dehydrated soy protein processed into granules or small chunks. When rehydrated, it produces a texture structurally similar to cooked ground meat. The dehydration ratio is the critical number. 1 pound of dried TVP rehydrates into approximately 3 pounds of protein-dense food. At roughly $6 per pound, that works out to approximately $2 per pound of meat equivalent. Freeze-dried ground beef runs $12 to $20 for the same equivalent. TVP achieves comparable functional outcomes at roughly 1/10 the cost. 1 cup of dry TVP contains approximately 50 grams of protein. Soy is a complete protein source, providing all 9 essential amino acids. Note: individuals with soy allergies or sensitivities should evaluate this one carefully. It's not appropriate for everyone. Shelf life, stored in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers inside food-grade containers, reaches 10 to 15 years, matching hard wheat berries and significantly outperforming canned meats. Preparation: soak in hot water or bouillon broth for 8 to 10 minutes. volume triples. From there, use it anywhere you'd use ground meat, chili, pasta sauce, tacos, stew. Reconstituted in bouillon, it becomes a meat-flavored, nutritionally complete protein base. 20 pounds in Mylar bags costs approximately $120. That represents the protein equivalent of 60 pounds of ground meat at a fraction of the weight, cost, and storage footprint. Hashtag 3. Powdered milk. Repackaged in Mylar powdered milk appears on almost every basic preparedness list. Most people storing it right now are unknowingly cutting its value by a factor of 10 or more, and the fix takes 10 minutes. The problem is the original cardboard packaging. Cardboard is permeable. It allows continuous, slow moisture and oxygen exchange over time. Powdered milk stored in its cardboard box under normal household conditions will clump, oxidize, develop off flavors, and lose meaningful nutritional quality within 6 to 12 months. The exact same powdered milk, heat-sealed in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, maintains full nutritional quality and flavor for 15 to 20 years. That's not a minor improvement. That's the same product moved into an entirely different performance tier with a single straightforward step. The nutritional foundation is solid. Powdered whole milk delivers calcium, protein, phosphorus, vitamin D, and a range of B vitamins, one of the most complete single-food nutrient profiles available in any shelf-stable format. Approximately 150 calories per quarter cup of dry powder. Practical range is equally broad. Reconstituted for drinking. Added to rice or oatmeal cooking water to increase caloric density. Used in baking, combined with bouillon and vegetable powder to make cream-based soups. Even used to produce simple soft cheese or yogurt when no other dairy source is accessible. Fresh dairy disappears within days of any significant disruption. Properly sealed powdered milk covers that nutritional gap for months. Storage setup, 2-pound Mylar bags, each with one 300cc oxygen absorber, sealed and stored inside 5-gallon food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids. 30 pounds of bulk powdered milk costs approximately $80. A basic impulse sealer runs $20 to $30, a one-time cost that improves every other item on this list. Practical integration tip: start blending powdered milk into regular cooking now. Mixed 50-50 with fresh milk in most recipes, it's nearly undetectable. By the time you need to rely on it fully, it won't be a jarring adjustment for anyone in your household. Hashtag 2. Hard winter wheat berries. This is the foundation item on this list, and it works differently from everything else here. The value isn't in what it is, it's in what it becomes. Hard winter wheat berries are whole, unhulled wheat kernels exactly as they come off the plant. Unprocessed, unground, unrefined. That intact state is precisely what produces a storage profile unlike almost any other food available. Stored in sealed food-grade buckets with oxygen absorbers, hard winter wheat berries maintain nutritional viability for 25 to 30 years. Some long-term grain storage research suggests stability beyond that under optimal hermetic conditions, though practical household estimates typically center on that 25 to 30-year range. Compare that to standard all-purpose white flour, which begins lipid oxidation within 8 months of milling and is genuinely compromised within 1 year. The chemistry is straightforward. The oils in wheat grain are contained within the germ and bran layers, protected by the intact seed coat. Milling exposes those oils to oxygen, and the oxidation process begins immediately and cannot be reversed. Keeping the grain whole prevents that from happening indefinitely. Practically, this means you're not storing a product with a fixed expiration, you're storing a raw material capable of producing fresh flour on demand for decades. Using it requires a hand-crank grain mill. A quality cast iron model costs approximately $60, a one-time investment that requires no electricity. Freshly milled whole wheat flour retains bran, germ, and endosperm intact, with a vitamin, mineral, and healthy fat profile that substantially exceeds any bag of flour sitting on a grocery shelf, which has typically been slowly oxidizing since it was milled months earlier. Caloric density is strong, approximately 1,600 calories per pound of dry grain. 200 pounds stored in 4 5-gallon buckets costs around $70 and provides a family of 4 with flour for 12 or more months of normal consumption. Beyond milling, wheat berries have uses that matter in extended emergencies. Cooked whole in boiling water, they produce a chewy, nutritious grain dish requiring no mill at all. Sprouted in a glass jar with only water and indirect light, they generate fresh sprouts within 3 to 4 days, delivering living enzymes, vitamin C, and folate that are nearly absent from any long-term stored food diet. That last point carries genuine medical weight. Vitamin C deficiency, scurvy, is a documented outcome in isolated populations on restricted diets. It's not historical. Wheat sprouts are one of the only practical methods for producing nutritionally complete fresh food without a garden or artificial lighting. They're a viable answer to a real risk. #1. Potato flour. This is the least familiar item on the list, and that unfamiliarity is precisely what makes it the most strategically valuable. Potato flour is not potato flakes. It is not instant mashed potato powder. It is flour milled from whole dried potatoes, a fundamentally different product with storage properties that place it in a completely separate category. Stored in an airtight container with an oxygen absorber, potato flour maintains quality for up to 10 years. Standard all-purpose white flour degrades and becomes rancid within 8 months under identical conditions. That's more than a decade of additional usable shelf life from a product that costs approximately $8 for a 5-pound bag. The nutritional profile adds further value. Potato flour is naturally gluten-free for individuals with celiac disease and for the broader population with non-celiac gluten sensitivity. This is not a preference in an extended emergency. It's a medical necessity. Gluten-free alternatives, when people finally think to look for them during a shortage, disappear quickly. Potato flour, existing entirely outside mainstream prepper awareness, stays stocked. The resistant starch content deserves specific attention. Resistant starch is a dietary fiber that passes through the small intestine undigested and feeds beneficial gut bacteria in the colon. Research consistently associates adequate resistant starch intake with improved satiety. You feel full longer on the same caloric intake. In a rationing scenario, that has direct measurable practical value. Functionally, potato flour works as a thickening agent for soups and stews at approximately 1/3 the volume needed for cornstarch. Mixed with water and a pinch of salt and cooked on any flat surface, including a camp stove, it produces flatbread in under 5 minutes. Fresh, warm bread in the middle of an emergency. What that does to the atmosphere around a meal, to family morale, to the feeling that things are manageable, that's genuinely difficult to quantify, but it is real and it matters. Store in food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids and a single oxygen absorber. High shelf life, low cost, zero competition during shortages. Look at all 11 together and the structure becomes clear. Bouillon handles flavor and electrolytes. Nutritional yeast covers complete protein and B vitamins. Coconut milk and ghee fill the critical fat gap that most stockpiles ignore. Potato flour and wheat berries handle long-term flour needs with shelf lives most preppers don't think are possible. Dried seaweed covers thyroid health and mineral density. Chia Seeds address hydration efficiency, omega-3s, and satiety. Premium instant noodles maintain the psychological resilience needed to keep people thinking clearly. TVP delivers meat-equivalent protein at a fraction of the cost and weight. Powdered milk, properly sealed, fills the dairy nutrition gap for years. Each item targets a specific failure point in conventional prepping. Together, they form a system that is nutritionally complete, psychologically sustainable, and achievable for well under $400 for a family of 4 across several months of coverage. Every single one of these was fully available during significant recent supply disruptions. The items that vanished were the ones everyone knew to grab. These stayed on shelves because they exist outside mainstream emergency awareness. That is not a coincidence. That is the entire point. The standard prepper list isn't wrong. It's incomplete. When millions of households activate the same list simultaneously, the system breaks exactly where everyone expected it to hold. The solution isn't more of the same. It's building the layer that doesn't compete with everyone else. That's what these 11 items represent. Rotate what you store into regular meals now. Your family needs to be familiar with these foods before an emergency requires them. Keep storage in a cool, insulated interior space. A 10-degree temperature increase roughly halves effective shelf life. Use oxygen absorbers and sealed mylar bags inside food-grade buckets. That single step extends shelf life by a factor of 3 to 5 over standard pantry storage. Which of these 11 are you missing right now?